What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to X-Men Inferno. And now we pick up with Excalibur. Yes, we do. Now, this was a series that was in high demand as soon as I begun my coverage over X-Men comics with the Mutant Massacre. And I said, hey, you know what? If we get to that point, I will cover Excalibur. Well, here we are. Now, we're not going to jump into the main series. That comes later. Instead, we have to cover the special that came out right before the launch of the main series by Chris Claremont in Marvel, better known as Excalibur, The Sword is Drawn. This was a one-shot that told us the story of how Excalibur came together and how they were able to realize they should carry on the dream of Charles Xavier. And so getting into the opening pages for today's story, we pick up with Kitty Pryde. Now, around this point, you have to remember that the X-Men are technically no longer around. See, when it came to Fall of the Mutants, we saw at the tail end of that event, the X-Men gave up their lives to keep the adversary out of their reality. Now, the X-Men were brought back to life by Lady Roma, and the world has no idea the X-Men are technically alive. And that includes all their friends like Kitty Pryde, who was not there because thanks to the Mutant Massacre, her and Nightcrawler had to recover. They had some severe injuries. And so Kitty Pryde is having a nightmare right now about the idea of, not being able to see the X-Men anymore. Now, when it comes to her nightmare, it is a very weird one because she does arrive at a movie set where it seems like the entire life of the X-Men was just one big movie or some kind of TV show, that nothing was ever real when it came to her life being an X-Men. And we already know that is not true. But at first, it seems like she is excited to see her team, but realize there's something wrong with her team. And again, she realized it's some kind of movie set and Charles Xavier is the director, which means all their powers were never real at all. But in the middle of her nightmare, she is confronted by, Rachel Summers. Now remember, Rachel Summers is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from an alternate timeline, better known as the Days of Future Past. Now, when it came to Rachel, she was brought back in time with the Phoenix, and so she's technically the Phoenix at this moment in time. Except in the earlier parts of X-Men comics, she did join the X-Men, but then she had just disappeared. Well, we kind of find out that she was taken away as a hostage by Mojo in his reality, and she has been kept there ever since she left the X-Men. But when it comes to Kitty Pryde's nightmare, she does see Rachel, but she does see the rest of the team begin to use the chains on Rachel as a way to hold her there, to keep her there with them. And you have Kitty Pryde very confused about what in the world this nightmare is trying to tell her. Except once you have Rachel being able to escape the X-Men, her nightmare, they turn their attention on Kitty Pryde and they change forms into werewolves. And werewolves come from Mojoverse. And it seems like they're coming after Kitty Pryde, which then leads into her waking up. Now, with Kitty Pryde waking up from her nightmare, this gives me the chance to kind of explain what happened to Kitty Pryde in the Mutant Massacre. Like I said, she was severely injured. And when it came to her injury, it was really more of the idea that she was unable to control her phasing ability. She was always in a phasing state. Now, after a few stories, they were able to fix that to a degree, meaning that she's able to control her powers, but she really has to concentrate. But either way, once she does wake up, she remembers, she realizes that the X-Men are dead, and she hates this so much because the X-Men were like her family. But then we pick up with the character known as Meggan. Now, Meggan is a mutant who has the ability to shapeshift. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, she is with Captain Britain. But either way, we do pick up with her just being a happy young woman, just enjoying life and being able to bond with the Dolphins. Except when she gets back home, she finds out the X-Men are dead. Now, here's the thing, because on the X-Men, you had Psylocke, and Psylocke is the twin sister to Captain Britain, but also a close friend to Meggan. And she already knows this must be hard for her boyfriend with the idea that his twin sister had sacrificed her life to save the world, that she is no longer around. But by the time you have Meggan being able to find Captain Britain, well, she sees that this is a man who already knows what happened to his sister, and he has been drinking, and I mean a lot. And so he is so drunk and upset about the idea of what happened to his twin sister. When you have Meggan walk over to him and say, hey, you have to understand, there was nothing that you could do. You were across the world. There was no way you could have been there to actually help her. He says, go away, some few names there I'm not going to say, but he basically tells her to go away because she does not understand what he is going through. And she is so scared of how he was acting, she does run off. And she's so upset that she was not able to comfort the man that she loves, that she runs into her room, but kind of realized that maybe there's somebody that she can talk to that could possibly help her to help Captain Britain. And so she leaves to find that person. But then we have to jump over to Nightcrawler. Now, when it came to the Mutant Massacre, just like Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler was also severely injured, except when it came to his injury, well, he was just in a coma for a very long time. But the problem for Nightcrawler was, as soon as he woke up, he found out the X-Men are no longer around. They had died. And so this man is also upset about the idea of what happened to the X-Men. Now, he is confronted by Kitty Pryde, and you have the two characters being able to be there for one another, but you also have Kitty Pryde express the nightmare that she had in the earlier parts of this story. And when it comes to Nightcrawler, it seems that he also had the same nightmare as Kitty Pryde. And they're both wondering that maybe it was Rachel Summers trying to call out for help. But if that's the case, where in the world is she? Now, you do have Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde go back over to the small house that Kitty Pryde is staying at. Except when they walk into that house, well, they are confronted by Gatecrasher and her crew. Now, when it comes to Gatecrasher, she and the rest of the crew, they all come from different dimensions, but they came together to form a group known as TechNet. Now, they're better known as bounty hunters who work for Saturnine, and I really hope I pronounce her name correctly. I went on YouTube to make sure to say her name correct, and that's what most people are calling her. Either way, when it comes to Saturnine, apparently she's looking for the Phoenix. And like I said earlier, around this time in Marvel Comics, well, Rachel Summers was the current Phoenix. And apparently she's a danger to the entire universe. And so the TechNet group is going after her to hopefully capture her. Now, when it comes to Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, and also Meggan, who appears later on, they all agree in the idea of not telling the TechNet group where is Rachel Summers, even though the crew has no idea where she is at. But because they did that, well, you didn't have TechNet attack our heroes and being able to capture both Meggan and also Kitty Pryde. Nightcrawler was able to get away because he realized they were not in the right position to fight against a force like that. But he also realized he needs some help. and that help would be Captain Britain. But speaking of Rachel Summers, we do see her being able to make it back to Earth's reality. Now remember, when it came to Rachel, she was being kept away in the Mojoverse, but she was able to escape and come back into Earth's reality, except she's being chased after by the Werewolves. Now the Werewolves, they work for Mojo, and they basically telling Rachel, you have to go back because you signed a contract and you have to follow through with that contract. Now, when it comes to Rachel, she says, heck no, because she knows that she was tricked by Mojo to sign that contract. Either way, when it comes to Rachel, she's able to use her abilities of her own powers and the powers of the Phoenix to defeat at least one of the Werewolves. Now, when it comes to the Werewolves, when they lose one of their own, they go to the dead body, surround it, and howl into the night, basically saying they lost one of their own. And thanks to their howling, Gatecrasher, and the rest of her crew, TechNet, they hear the cries of the Werewolves, which means that she knows they must be nearby, which also means Rachel Summers must be nearby as well. Now we jump over to Nightcrawler, and when it comes to Nightcrawler, he goes over to the home of Captain Britain to ask for his help. Now, when it comes to Captain Britain, he's not in a state of mind to help out Nightcrawler, because at the moment he's wondering, what is the point of being a hero? Because to him, the hero life is pointless. No matter what, the world is not getting better. Heroes are dying left and right. Why should they continue on? But for Nightcrawler, he says, that's the hero life. No matter what, you have to continue on in hope that maybe one day down the road, the world would get better. But at the same time, we can't worry about that because the woman you love, my friend, they're both being held as hostages. And here's the thing. If you don't go help her, then you become the problem that you are thinking about. The problems of the hero life. And you have Nightcrawler leave, hoping that Captain Britain will follow, but you have Nightcrawler leave to hopefully go save the life of Kitty Pryde and also Meggan. Now we jump over to Rachel Summers, and this leads into the formation of X Factor, because when it comes to Rachel Summers, you currently have her wondering what could possibly be her next move. She just found out the X-Men are dead, Magneto has taken over the school, and also Charles Xavier is no longer on Earth. She's wondering what in the world can she possibly do here? Except while she is thinking that, well, she is attacked by TechNet. Now, when it comes to TechNet, they have the numbers against her, but luckily for Rachel, Nightcrawler does appear. Except Nightcrawler is not really able to help her to fight against the forces of TechNet. But again, you didn't have someone else appear, and that would be Captain Britain. And that is why I say this is the section where you do have the formation of Excalibur. Now, with those three characters, they are able to free Meggan and Kitty Pryde. And you have all five characters work together to be able to take down TechNet and also the Werewolves who appeared as well in the middle of the battle. Now, while you have both enemy groups realize that they have no way of actually defeating our heroes, you have both groups retreat for the time being. And you do have our heroes celebrating the idea of this kind of being a reunion. Because remember, Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler, they haven't seen Rachel for a long time. And now they are able to see her again. And Meggan is able to be back with Captain Britain. But the story is not done yet. Now, later on that night, you do have our heroes coming together. And when they do, they're having a campfire, but their conversation is not in a way where it seems, okay, we are about to see the birth of a new team in the world of Marvel Comics. No, their conversation is really more of, we are about to go our separate ways. What we did today was great and all, but hey, you know what? This was a one-time thing. But you have Rachel saying, why should it be a one-time thing? Why not make this a permanent thing? Why don't we try to continue on where the X-Men left off at. Why don't we try to carry on Charles Xavier's dream with the idea that mutants and humans can live together in harmony? And Charles' dream was very similar to King Arthur's dream. So hey, you know what? I feel like what we have here will be a great thing. The X-Men are gone and somebody has to step up. And just like that, you have every single one of them agree. And after them agreeing, you now have your Excalibur team in the world of Marvel Comics. And this leads us into the main series when we actually get into it. But with that being said, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.